We are just about to start the questioning of Emily Apple at the under. The sound. I do apologize.
Okay.
I better redo
Start
that.
again. Okay.
Let's start again. We've been having these tech problems. I do apologize for the lack of sound for the opening of that. We're awaiting the start of the questioning of Emily Apple, who was a very active activist in the 2000s. She is kind of appearing out of order. She was the main sort of undercover officer who reported on her was Jason Bishop, who gave evidence a couple of weeks ago. She's doing after him, though she was reported on by a number of other undercover police officers, including Robert Hastings, who'll be giving evidence next week. Sorry about the sound problems at the beginning. I'm joined by Chris Bryan of the Undercover Research Group and regular of this parish. And you were saying what an inspirational character Emily is.
Yeah, totally. And she was somebody, a name I heard before I actually met her. And when I heard her, and then I came across her, I suppose, in London, met her in London probably during Dicey, which she was key in organising amongst many other people as well.
She was key in organising the opposition to the Defence Systems Exhibition International,
yeah.
Not the actual arms fair itself.
She's not big on that. But I think probably most people that met her in that sort of mode, in that organising in London, would have also witnessed her being horribly harassed by the police. And that was, I think, my memory of Emily is being like an amazing organiser, and then also being picked on by the police, like to a horrible amount, and just and she's going to talk about that a lot, and that's, I think, one of the key things about her testimony, as well as all the undercovers that spied on her, is the linkage between that surveillance and the overt surveillance by fit teams and the sort of harassment surveillance that Emily especially experienced, but many of us, even sort of minor characters such as myself, and be followed around by uniformed police in London. It's like ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I know that probably happened to you as well.
It did. I have to confess, I do feel like I always feel a small bit of guilt with Emily, because there were a number of occasions where I would see her at demonstrations, and because she was being so closely intimidated by forward intelligence teams, something I experienced myself as well, but like not to the level she did, that I would spot her with her this sort of entourage of uniformed officers like following her around and generally harassing her, that I would like pretend not to know her essentially, and like not go anywhere near her.
Well, it's hard to get to her. I mean,
this is a really common thing. A lot of people talk about just the guilt they have towards, how they didn't respond in those moments.
But the thing is, if you'll be trying to do stuff as an activist, you don't want to you want to stay away from the police in order to do what you're doing. I actually. In 2003, I was involved in a sort of blockade of a road, which I now learned that Emily was part of sort of coordinating a whole series of actions. I wasn't aware. I was just part of this action, and that's one of the things that working for the Undercover Research Group. Stuff I was involved with within London. I was obviously generally didn't live in London, so I was just involved in specific things. So I was unaware of the wider organising. So I was involved in it, and I thought I knew about it, but as it turns out, I only knew a tiny amount that was going on. There's all this other stuff going on. So it's quite interesting that. And I think Emily, I've read a statement, and I know that her testimony is going to be really moving today and eloquent. So it's going to be, Emily's activism, not totally, but largely overlapped with the stuff I was doing, not completely, but for me, it's personal as well, because I know Emily, but also because a lot of the groups that she was involved with, I was involved with from 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 Bristol rather than London, but still, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She is one of those characters who, Chris says inspirational. I mean, she's definitely one of the best of us, I think, of our generation of activists. One of the ones who was, the most committed, the most engaged, both mobilizing on the day, but also really involved in the organizing in advance of events. So, I mean, I think she's got a lot of insight. I'm been really pleased by the way in which the forward intelligence teams have come to the fore in the process of the inquiry lately. I think that's down to the evidence that Emily Apple has submitted to the inquiry. I think I'm hoping that people are starting to clamour more for the forward intelligence team officers to be called as witnesses during Tranche 4. I think really, if we want to understand what was happening around activism during that time period, it's no good just calling activists and undercover police. You need to call the police who, let's be honest, had a very good knowledge of what was happening in our lives, what was happening on the street.
Yeah, and one of the things that strikes me at Dicey in retrospect, the arms fair, or as the council inquiry will spell it out painfully, the DSEI each time, but is that there were so many uniformed police on the ground, really they didn't actually need any intelligence because they had so many police. Whatever we did, I was involved in a few sort of half-assed attempts to enter the actual exhibition centre. We were nowhere near to succeeding in any of those attempts. I don't know if anybody did it in that way. I know a few people got in by having passes, delegate passes, and doing unwinding banners. But we blockaded roads to sort of slow down all the arms going into the Excel Centre and stuff like that. But I just wonder though, maybe the other way around is that there was so much police because of sort of inaccurate and mixed up intelligence they were getting. There was this massive police presence on the ground because of the intelligence. I mean,
it's something we've come to again and again in terms of as we talk about the incompetence of these men as intelligence officers, that these undercover officers were producing bullshit evidence, bullshit intelligence that didn't really lead anywhere. What it did do is it provided a justification for huge police responses to any form of mobilization. And as they that has its value in itself. It's not that it didn't have to be right; it just had to be enough to justify the deployment of huge numbers of resources.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to unpick all that and where you put your priority. Obviously for us, we don't, if you like, the resource isn't, how much they spend on the policing isn't really what we're worried about. But but I think it just speaks to the sort of I don't know, it's how big. They didn't really have a clear goal. It was all just I don't know. Yeah. Babbling that.
No worries. So Emily will be giving evidence this morning. It starts at 10, which is just in a few minutes' time. The broadcast should start about 10:10. As I understand it, I understand that she will be appearing in video. There was possibly it would have been audio only. Someone just shouted over at us that it'll be starting a bit late. I mean, that might just be a matter of minutes. It might be a bit more. The inquiry is a bit sort of hazy like that. If I were you, I'd open the YouTube link, which you can just find the description below this video at 10 past, and it'll burst into life when the chair enters the room.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add, I don't think I'll be breaking any restrictions in orders, and having read Emily's statement, it definitely has the most exclamation marks and the most swearing out of any written statements that I've read so far.
Yeah, I mean, one of the refreshing things about Emily is she is not bound by, she talks normally. She doesn't try and sort of meet the legalese of the council of the inquiry. I would imagine that her questioning will be done in plain English on her side at least, and it will be a lot easier to follow perhaps than some of the other witnesses have been. I really recommend following it today. I think it will be enlightening and hopefully a bit joyful. Emily has got a very, very good sense of humor, and in the though has been profoundly negatively affected by these deployments, is able to find the dark humor within it rather than wallow in the misery around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, well, we better go in and find ourselves some seats. Thanks for joining us. We'll be doing videos during the breaks and at the middle and the end of the day. If people could share and subscribe to these videos, it makes a huge difference to how visible they are. I know that there's 32 people watching now, and not one of you has liked it. Outrageous. So please do. This is the beginning of the last week the inquiry this phase. We'll be having 2 months off after this week's over. We've only got 2 witnesses left, Emily today, and then tomorrow we'll be hearing from the undercover police officer HN18, Robert Hastings, cover name Rob Harrison, who infiltrated No Borders, the International Solidarity Movement, Rampart Social Centre, State of Emergency, numerous other groups.
But basically used his deployment as a vehicle for horrible coercive relationship, really. That's really the way around you want to put it with him.
Yeah, I think very much, yeah, I don't think anybody who listened to the evidence of Maya last Wednesday can do anything but feel absolute revulsion at this man and the severe abuse. There's a lot to suggest he was a predator who did this to many women. Anyway, we better go and find our seats. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all during the next break. Bye for now.